owl. How many licks does it take to get to the gift cards?
Smile.
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3. 3.
Hello everyone, Skippy here, and welcome to One Piece episode 942, directed by Kohei Kureta and supervised by Keita Saito and Toshio Deguchi. After the past few weeks of largely dialogue-based episodes that hinged mostly on solid art and direction, we're finally dipping back into the action pool once again with co-series director Kohei Kureta's first whole episode in a long while. That's made all the more premium with his stylish board that houses incredibly 3D environments that will help the already cool action get even better. Top it all off with bouncy regular animator Tetsuro Nireki participating, along with the long-awaited return of one of the anime's previous Sakuga superstars Kenji Kuroyanagi, who produced so many of the anime's most memorable and fantastic scenes from Amazon Lily to Fishman Island that featured incredibly smooth and finessed movements. There's no way this episode will stand to disappoint in any conceivable way. Especially when Saito's art is as on-model as ever combined with some idiosyncrasies and Deguchi's blocky art looks quite a bit above his usual norm. So will episode 942 serve to be yet another crazy well-done action episode that gives some of our other crew members time to shine? Time to get locked into combat and find out. This episode covers the first 10 pages of chapter 944, and unlike the manga, really makes this the Straw Hats battle more than anything else by expanding upon the little bits of action that are within the source material to show them all working as a team and showing off in outstanding ways. Which for one makes it so the fight doesn't escalate nearly as quickly by placing some Zoro and Sanji action before Zoro attacks Orochi, and secondly highlights that the crew itself is the soul behind the series. Even in small filler scenes like Luffy simply reacting to the crew showing off, there's just a sense of heart and soul from all of their dynamics that I love, and it's something that we've rarely gotten to see in Wano for the most part, because most of the crew has just been split into factions. Arc-wide, it's really only been Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy getting major story-related action moments, so I'm very thankful to see that so many of the other crew members were given enough time to show off, while also adding the necessary oomph that the reveal of Kamazo being killer needed, and flashing back to Sabaody when Luffy reminisces on his colleagues' past actions. Some people may miss that hectic no-holds-barred feeling that the manga brought to the action here, but it's incredibly worth it in my opinion when it's evenly traded out for what stands as the core and lifeblood of the series for me and many others. From depicting the vast landscapes of the flower capital as large and arena-like, to several high and low angles that can add some cool foreshortening to any layout, Kureta's board is as vibrant as expected and mixes his unique style of classic One Piece angles with the more creative and visually distinct modern direction. That gives the action that is here quite a bit of room to breathe and allows it to feel special enough beyond its base key animation, and topped all off with compositing that always has an eye for making things feel immersive and atmospheric, with shadows encapsulating certain frames and having the look of every Straw Hat's power still feel unique, despite being laid down at a ground level already. It finds a nice happy medium between the two types of storyboard that Nakashima and Tokoro propped up over the past 2 weeks, and therefore really stands out as something nostalgic yet still beholden to the standards of more modern anime. And that's something that Kureta manages to do oh so well, which definitely shows that he's rightfully earned his place as one of the two co-series directors. Despite a few off-corrections from both in terms of still shots, Saito and Deguchi look just as polished as they were in their last outings, with Saito still being quite on model aside from his more sharper approach, and Deguchi working quite well with characters like Kid and Killer that require pretty violent expressions, which I think his blocky and unrefined style really works well for. Of course though, the main thing many people were looking forward to this episode more than anything else was the animation side of things, and while it looks like the preview unfortunately spoiled most of the action, that doesn't make make it all not impressive in the slightest. It's more of a collection of short, really good cuts rather than somewhat lengthy ones. But regulars like Tetsuro Nineki still manage to really make a splash in spite of that, by still peppering their small bits of work here and there with some of their usual intense effects work and smears, that's complemented by that oh-so-good forceful and weighty timing. Which also applies to returning star Kenji Kuroyanagi, who does quite a bit in this episode considering his smoke is just about everywhere in it, but mainly gets to show off in short bursts of action with Zoro and Robin that have that looseness and finesse movement that we've come to love from him, that pours so much character into it all, which helps only make this episode that much better than it would have been without it. Sure, some people may have been expecting more based off what the preview showed, and I think that will sadly hinder this episode standing in a lot of people's eyes, but this was still every bit as good as I expected a series director level episode to be, and it did it all without having to be some major and genre-defining Sakuga fest. The main question now is if next week's episode 943 will follow that same path or go for something even better than the best that this episode had to offer. I'm not worried in the slightest about Komaki's storyboard and Shimaya's further execution of it, since they've both always shown to be the best of the best, and it looks like we're getting more of the same there, but it'll be interesting to see how extensive the action from One Piece's biggest animator fan Takashi Kojima is, and if the surrounding animation will be enough to distract from Shingaki's bulbous and groggy art. Thankfully though, the preview doesn't show too much this time, so I can't wait to see what the final product will end up bringing. Anyways guys, that's it for now. I'm Skippy, and Ichikawa Saba Odi might be the weirdest best thing ever.